All right, everybody, welcome to the Southwest Consolidated Zoning Board meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. With that, if I could turn it over to staff to read the COVID statement, please.
This meeting is now being recorded. Please silence all electronic devices. This meeting is being held in the board hearing room with zoning board members attending in person. There is also an option for virtual attendance on Zoom webinar. If you are using Zoom, you may participate in the meeting using your computer, telephone, or other electronic device. For Zoom participants, chat will be disabled once the meeting begins. If you have trouble, please call 913-715-1700. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function in the Zoom app to notify planning staff of your desire to speak. To activate this function, click raise hand in the webinar controls at the bottom of the screen. By telephone, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. Please do not utilize the raise hand function until the start of the agenda item about which you desire to comment. We will take comments from in-person attendees first, followed by Zoom participants. The Zoom moderator will call on individuals who have raised their hand. The chairman may modify these procedures as needed to conduct an orderly and efficient meeting. All public speakers will be limited to 3 minutes unless the chair designates a different time period in order to accommodate all the speakers. When your name is called by the moderator, your microphone will be unmuted. Please state your name and address for the record, followed by your comments. If you share concerns, comments, or points made by others, please refrain from repeating those comments and instead note for the record that you agree with the previous individual's comments. There will be a 10 seconds remaining warning sound. For board members and presenters, please state your name every time you begin talking so that the comments can be transcribed for the record. This is a public meeting. We are presenting live and recording the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. If you would now proceed with roll call.
John DeGrand.
Present.
Terry Atwell on Zoom.
Here.
Donna Getzman is absent. David Wolf is absent. Randy Hutchins.
Present.
Darren Schaefer is absent. Rebecca Barton on Zoom.
Present.
Brian Walker.
Present.
And Jason Cooper.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move further into the agenda here. So first off, on the agenda set forth, do we have any add, deletions, revisions for the agenda tonight? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to go ahead and approve the agenda tonight.
Brian Walker, so moved.
Jason Cooper, Atwell, second.
Very good. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, move forward with tonight's agenda. At this point in time, we'd like to disclose any conflicts of interest.
None. Rebecca Barton. I am a neighbor to application SW 22-219-CUP.
Yeah, you'll have to recuse yourself from that one.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a quorum to hear that one with her recusal?
That, Mr. Chairman, that would remain 5 zoning board members, and that would be a quorum even with recusal for one.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Penley. All right, so we can move forward with all the business before us then tonight. Any other disclosure of external contacts or discussions?
None.
Very good. Now, looking at the minutes from the May 25th, 2022 meeting, any adds, deletions, corrections to the meeting minutes? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes.
Terry Atwell move to approve.
Rebecca Barton, second.
All approved, state aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed, same sign. Very good. Many minutes have been approved. All right, so we'll move forward to the board reports. Mr. Penley, will you be providing that report?
Yes, thank you. Commissioners, Sean Penley, County Planning staff. The Board of County Commissioners on June 6th, 2022, officially adopted the amendments to the comprehensive plan and zoning regulations for the utility scale solar facilities. That was a long time coming. Obviously, as you know, we have discussed this in previous updates, but the Planning Commission had recommended the draft regulations, and the Board of County Commissioners officially adopted the amendments to the comprehensive plan and zoning regulations on June 6th. So those have been adopted. That's the only update for the Board of County Commissioners actions. I could provide an update for Planning Commission if you'd like.
Sure, go ahead.
We do have a regular meeting that is scheduled for next week on June 28th. The items listed on that agenda for the Planning Commission meeting will be an election of officers and upcoming planning priorities. And that's the only update for the Planning Commission.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Sean? All right, let's move forward with the business before us, the board. On application number SW22-192, that application is seeking a continuance. So with that, I'd be seeking a motion to go ahead and approve the continuance of that project.
Jason Cooper, so moved. John DeGrand, second.
All right, so to approve the continuance of application number SW22-192-PDP/FDP preliminary and final development plan at 27200 West 157th Street. All state aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Terry, is that an approval or disapproval?
It's an approval because I got a dog barking in the back, so I didn't get my button on in time. So okay. I approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Atwell. So we'll move forward.
Sorry.
The motion just passed. The continuance is approved. So with that, we'll be moving to
Mr.
the next
Chairman,
application.
Mr. Chairman, Sean Penley, Plan Staff. I wanted to note that continuance will be to the next meeting on July 27th, 2022. And that meeting will be held here in this hearing room, the Board of County Commissioners hearing room, in 111 South Cherry Street,
Okay.
At
Thank you.
6:30 p.m. Yeah.
All right. Now the next application, SW22-217, who on staff will be moving forward with that project. All right. Ms. Wicklund.
Diane Wicklund, Johnson County Planning Department. I would like to enter in the staff report dated June 15th, 2022 into the record, and also enter into the record the handout that's sitting at your chairs or on your desk, which is an elevation drawing of the new 12 by 30 lean-to area. That was not in your packet. It's on graph paper, so also just putting that into the record. So the applicant is Lonnie Weiger, also the landowner. The site address is 19910 Pepper Tree Lane. The property currently has RN1 residential zoning, and there is currently a single family residence and 4 accessory structures on the property, and it's 4.8 acres in size. The applicant has a current conditional use permit on the property for an oversized accessory structure and is in compliance with stipulations approved with the current CUP. It was approved in December of 2011 with a 20-year term. The CUP allowed construction of a 30 by 40 enclosed accessory structure with a lean-to. The applicant today is requesting to amend his current conditional use. So the CUP amendment involves 2 separate requirements of the regulations. That's the maximum square footage that's allowed for detached accessory structures on properties less than 10 acres, and then also the number of accessory structures on a property that's less than 10 acres in size. So the applicant is requesting an amendment to his current CUP for the following. So to add a 10 by 40 open porch area and to enclose a 12 by 40 foot lean-to area to the 30 by 40 existing accessory building. The second is to add a 12 by 30 lean-to area to a second existing structure, the 30 by 50 building, and then to have 5 accessory structures on the property. The property currently has 2 detached accessory structures. Those comply with setbacks and height requirements, and they are used for storage and workshop areas. And then as also part of this amendment is to have 5 accessory structures on the property where a maximum of 3 is allowed by right. And I'll point those out here in a minute. So this requested amendment adds 684 square feet of enclosed area to the property and 760 square feet of lean-to area, which is roofed only and open walled, unenclosed to the property. So this is just an aerial view of the subject property south of 199th and west of Homestead Lane. The subject property is outlined in blue, as you can see here, and along this Pepper Tree Lane cul-de-sac. Here's a close-up view of the subject property. So you can see here, so the proposals to enclose the lean-to area on this building, to enclose the lean-to area and then add on that 10 by 40 open porch area on the south side, to add a new 12 by 30 lean-to here on this north side of this building. And then in addition to that, then the 5 accessory structures that I just mentioned on the property, which is also part of the CUP, would be these 2 larger accessory buildings, a very small kennel building, a tool shed, and then a proposed playhouse that's 12 by 12 for the grandchildren to play in. Here's a picture of the existing 30 by 40 building. This lean-to area is what will be enclosed, and then the 10 by 40 new open porch area would just kind of be right here next to that. This is the second accessory building. It's 30 by 50 currently, and the proposal is to add a new 12 by 30 lean-to area on this north side of the building. Here's a picture of both accessory structures that's looking west into the property. And so these 2 lean-to areas will be here and here. Here's a picture of the existing tool shed that I pointed out earlier. And then here's a picture of the existing kennel building, 6 by 10 to house 2 cats. And then here's a picture of the proposed playhouse, which would be 12 by 12. And then this is just an aerial view of the neighborhood, showing that there's many other accessory structures in this neighborhood. Here's a picture looking west into the property from the driveway and street. And you can kind of see where my hand is, one of the buildings. So heavily and very nicely screened from the street. And here's just the building elevations, drawings that are just part of the application. And then here's the site plan, just kind of another version of what I showed you earlier. And then here is also kind of a petition form that the applicant submitted with some signatures from nearby neighbors stating that they're okay with the proposal. And so, you know, as we kind of go through the golden criteria quickly, there's kind of some main reasons why this kind of minor amendment to the CUP is okay and is to have been found to be compatible with the rural residential character of the neighborhood. Kind of for the following reasons: the distance and screening from the existing nearby homes that you can see in those aerial pictures. The location of the existing accessory structures are a minimum of 330 feet away from the street and towards the back property, which distance and buffers the view of the buildings. The size of the property at 4.8 acres. The existing structures match the color of the existing residence, and they are consistent with the architectural styling and building materials of other existing accessory structures in the area. And the subject property, as you can see, has several trees on the property, which help screens the view of the buildings. And then finally, and probably most important, is that the landowner has been in continual compliance with his current CUP and the approved stipulations, and so has demonstrated that compliance. So with that, and just a final note that the Johnson County Environmental Department did come out and do a location inspection for the existing septic system and did find that the proposed location of the new lean-to areas and all accessory structures comply with the environmental department setbacks and requirements. So with that, planning staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit amendment. And I'm not going to read stipulation number 1. If you look at it, it's pretty long and detailed, but it just kind of spells out what I've just been showing you, that the details of the amendment. And staff is recommending a 20-year term, and primarily because as I stated earlier, the existing conditional use permit had a 20-year term, and so staff felt it was appropriate just to continue that 20-year term, and that would start over if approved. And then finally on page 17 is a proposed motion for the zoning board's reference. With that, I'll stand for questions. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Questions from the board for staff?
None.
None.
Hearing none, I'd like to invite the owners or the representative of the owners to step forward for any comments they'd like to make.
Lonnie Vliger, 19910 Pepper Tree Road.
Go ahead.
Is there any questions?
You don't. If you don't have a presentation, I'll open it up for questions from the.
No, I didn't bring a presentation. That's
fine.
Yep,
it's fine. Any questions for the owner?
None.
Make the comment that I did go around. I talked to all the neighbors. Nobody has any issues. We tried to stay in compliance. We did have a truck stop built right by us, and within I think about 3 months, we had an armed robbery. So I do want to keep everything inside at my facility. So that has kind of pushed this to keep everything under lock and key. We started a neighborhood watch with Johnson County, and that's going also. So yeah, we're a very close-knit neighborhood.
Very good. Thank you. With that, at this point in time, thank you. We're going to open it up for public comments. If you'd like to make public comments specific to this project, please provide your name, address, and for the record. If you share concerns, comments, or points made by others, please refrain from repeating those comments and instead note for the record that you agree with the previous individual comments. With that being said, is there anyone like to step forth and make any comments on this project before we take a vote? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the project.
John DeGrand.
Go ahead, John.
I move that the board approve application SW 22-217-CUP for a CUP amendment for the proposed enclosure of the existing lean-to area, 2 new lean-to areas, and having 5 accessory structures on the property for the reasons and stipulations recommended by staff and set forth in the staff report.
Very good. Do I hear a second?
Terry Atwell.
Brian Walker beat Terry Atwell.
Go ahead, Brian. It's okay.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. All right. Motion passes. Congratulations. Sean, when will that be heard by the board? The county commissioners?
Yes. So that will be heard by the Board of County Commissioners on July 28th, 9:30 a.m. Actually here in this room.
All right, very good. We'll move forward. All right, with application number 22-218 CUP. Thank you.
Good evening, Michelle Leineger, planning staff. This application is for a replacement of an oversized accessory building. This aerial shows the location of the subject property, which is located on 207th Street between Gardner and Moonlight Roads. Here's a close-up of the property where you can see the previous accessory building. This building was destroyed at the beginning of this year, completely destroyed by a fire, and the applicant is looking to replace that. The building and the proposed buildings are 2,560 square feet, and 2,100 square feet is permitted by the regulations. This building was built a long time ago before the regulations were in place. So it was grandfathered as it sat. And so since it was completely destroyed, this process was required to replace it at the same size. Here's a aerial view of what the previous building looked like. Here's a zoning slide. The green areas are county rural zoning, and then the purple blue areas are incorporated Edgerton zoned for industrial uses. All the other surrounding properties are a bit larger than this one. And so they do have accessory buildings. With them being over 10 acres in size, there's not a size limitation like the subject property would have, but it's very similar to the character of the area. The surrounding neighbors are used to seeing that building since it's been there for a very long time. Here's the proposed accessory building elevation. And actually, if you recall what the previous elevation of the previous building looked like, this one will be entirely enclosed, so it'll actually have more protection of what is stored inside, where the front of the other one had more of an overhang. So you'll actually be able to see less of what's stored in there, and it'll be more secured for the applicant. Staff does recommend approval of the oversized accessory building subject to stipulations, including a 20-year time frame, and there's a couple others that are included. and outlined in the staff report. Here's a motion if you see fit. I can answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Michelle from the board? No.
None.
Hearing none, I'd like to go ahead and open it up for comments to be made by the owner.
Sean Winslow, 28640 West 207th Street. I don't have any further comments.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the board? The landowner? Okay. At this point in time, again, I'd like to open it up for public comments. And is there anyone who would like to make any public comments in regard to this project? Seeing none, I'll move forward here with the board business. Is there a motion to approve this project?
I can do it if nobody there wants to. Let me find the motion.
The floor is yours, Ms. Atwell.
The floor is mine. Okay. Well, I will move to approve application number SW 22-218-CUP-GA with the stipulations staff has put forward with a not to exceed 20 years.
Do I hear a second?
Rebecca Barton, second.
Jason Cooper, second. Okay, all in favor, please state aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion approved. Congratulations. And Sean, is it July 28th once again?
That is correct. This item will be heard at the Board of County Commissioners meeting on July 28th in this meeting room.
Sorry, Michelle.
I figured I'd cover for Michelle since she wasn't at the podium.
All right, very good. All right, we'll move forward to the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, if I could announce Sean Penley again, planning staff. This is the next item, which Rebecca Barton had indicated requesting to recuse herself. So we'll have just the remaining 5 board members considering this next application. Just want to note that for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board. Michelle Cricks with Johnson County Planning. And this is case number SW 22219 CUP-MC. A request for approval of a conditional use permit for a new 952 square foot pole barn accessory building, a portion of which is proposed to be placed in front of the primary home. The applicant and landowner is Mark McGill. The lot is zoned residential neighborhood 1, RN1, and it is a 2.1 acre lot. And this evening, the applicant is requesting a 10-year conditional use permit term. Here's the vicinity map of the subject property highlighted in blue in front of you. It is located south and west of the intersection of 167th Street and Four Corners Road. It's about 0.6 miles west of the city of Gardner. Here is the surrounding zoning of the subject property. As you can see here, a big chunk of land there is all zoned RN1. There's a little bit zoned residential low density neighborhood district, the RLD there at the northwest corner, and the substantial remaining portion of the county is zoned RUR. Development out here is single family residential with accessory buildings, and there's some agricultural uses out in this area as well. Here's an aerial of the subject property, and current improvements on the property include a single family home, a 224 square foot accessory building, and another small chicken coop. The cumulative accessory building area proposed on the property is 1,196 square feet. And per Article 18 of the regulations, the maximum total area for all accessory buildings and structures on the subject property is not to exceed 1,200. So the proposed accessory building would comply with size requirements on the property. The accessory building is proposed to encroach approximately 17 feet and 1 inch in front of the home, as identified here on the slide. The home is set back from 167th Street right away, approximately 165 feet, and is 189 feet 10 inches from the street center line. The accessory building would be then set back about 148 feet from 167th Street. The applicant is requesting the front yard encroachment to maintain a 25-foot separation between the septic system laterals identified right here on the slide within this cloud, and the proposed accessory building, which is a requirement of Johnson County Department of Health and Environment. The proposed accessory building would comply with side and rear setbacks and would comply with the separation requirements from the septic laterals. For this request, though, a conditional use permit would be required to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners, since it doesn't fully comply with the regulations for accessory buildings in the RN1 zoning district. So here in front of you is the Article 18, Section 6A2 of the for accessory buildings. And basically for lots regardless of the size in the RN1 district, accessory buildings are not allowed in the front yard, regardless of the lot size, unless first approved by a conditional use permit. So here's a close-up version of the site plan that was provided by the applicant. You can see here, this line right here would represent the front line of the home. Here is in red is the accessory building proposed, the 17 feet 1 inch encroachment into the front yard, and then the 25-foot separation from the sewer laterals. The accessory building is proposed to be 19 feet 10 inches tall, like I said before, with an area of 952 square feet. So it does comply with the height requirements for accessory buildings in this district as well. It would be constructed of manufactured pre-metal siding with white walls, dark charcoal roof, and wainscoting. And it would be used for personal uses, such as storage for a teenager's automobile and for a workshop. This is a view of the subject property from 167th Street. The proposed location of the building here is visible, and it would be right about this location here where the arrow is on the slide. There is a pretty substantial tree line here right along that west property line. And then there's a row of trees here along the front of the property as well. So that those trees would pretty much, kind of help temper the view of the accessory building from the street as well as from neighbors. Planning staff does recommend approval of this conditional use permit, subject to the stipulations outlined in your staff report. Here is a list of recommended stipulations that is in your staff report, but is also here for your review. And when you are ready, here is a recommended motion. With that, thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Very good. Any questions for staff?
Terry Atwell, I have a question for you. Does this regulation where you're saying that a building can't encroach the front of the residence, does that only apply to properties that are less than a nominal 10 acres? Or does this apply to all properties?
No, so the lot is zoned rural or planned rural. It can be it can be in the front area on 3 acres or more. But in the residential, this is a residentially zoned district, it would need a.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other questions? All right, at this point in time, if the applicant would like to make any presentation or comments.
Mark McGill, 33785 West 167th Street. I have nothing to add to the staff report that was presented by staff. Open to any questions.
All right, thank you. Questions?
Randy, Terry Atwell again. I have a question.
Go ahead.
So Mark, can you tell me why you only asked for a 10-year CUP? Is this building going to be taken down after 10 years, or is this going to be a permanent structure?
I would like it to be a permanent structure. I did not consider a longer term. Was following, I guess, the recommendations online for the 10-year. but I'm open to a lengthier term if that's
okay. That's perfect. Thank you.
All right, any further questions? All right, at this point in time, we'd like to open it up for any public comments regarding this application. Seeing none, I would like to entertain a motion to approve or deny this project.
Hey, Randy, can we have a little bit of discussion first?
Sure.
Personally, for me, I would like to see the 10-year CUP move to a 20. That's pretty standard for what we've been doing, and I think the building totally fits in the area, and I don't think that there's going to be a problem with it. What's everybody else's opinion on that?
John DeGrand, I agree.
Yeah, Jason Cooper, I concur.
Yeah, okay,
go ahead.
Terry, would you like to go ahead and make a motion then?
I can. Terry Atwell, I move to approve application number SW 22-219-CUPMC with the stipulations put forth by staff, with the exception of changing the 10-year CUP term to a 20.
Brian Walker, second.
Okay, all in favor, state aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Very good. The application is approved. July 28th.
That's correct. I just want to also confirm that there is one abstention on record. But yes, this project will go to the July 28th BOCC meeting to be held here in this room at 9:30 a.m.
Very good. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next application.
Hello, this is Karen Miller, the Johnson County Planning Department. This application is seeking to divide 149 acres into two lots. One lot at the corner of 175th and Edgerton Road with 16 acres, and the remainder that would front onto both 175th Street and Edgerton Road at 133 acres. And here is the surrounding area. The blue line outlines the entire parcel. This notch out of the middle, that was a previous division that was approved by probate court several years ago. Here is a clip from the final plat, and I have done a red outline around the exterior of the plat. Here in the corner, in the northeast corner, is lot 1 at 16 acres, and then the remainder is lot 2 at approximately 133 acres. This area is located in the RUR zoning district, which allows homes and parcels on at least 10 acres. In general, one single family home and agricultural uses will be allowed on lot 1 and lot 2 because of its RUR zoning. The application was reviewed by planning staff and meets all of the minimum infrastructure requirements and all the other zoning and subdivision regulations. And staff recommends stipulations to be attached to the plat, which those stipulations start on page 8 of the staff reports. And then on page 10, the staff report is planning staff's recommendation and also a draft motion that the zoning board may want to use. So the reasons for recommendation of approval for the preliminary and final plat is that the preliminary and final plats as proposed comply with the county zoning and subdivision regulations. And so that's the purpose of the zoning board's action here is to determine if, as proposed, this plat is in compliance with both the zoning and the subdivision regulations. And I have just a few other things to point out. I've received some public comment regarding this application on at your place, and also distributed via email are 2 letters, one from Jane Kanoki and the other from the Toplikers. And then also I've supplied extra information to the zoning board regarding the plats here. The section in which this plat is located is a long section. So typically a textbook section is a mile by a mile, and it's 640 acres. And this particular section is a long section, and it has greater than 640 acres. It has almost 647 acres. And on its edges, the section has greater than a mile. And so I'm going to zoom in here if I can. And so I had, oops.
Your microphone cut out. I cannot hear you. Rebecca Barton.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Yeah. So zooming in, I had the county surveyor take a look at this section to confirm that, yes, this is a long section, and to confirm that the Olson survey generally follows the dimensions as accepted by the county of this section. So here is the entire section. The applicant's property is located in most of this northeast quarter section. And here is the north property line. And our county surveyor has determined that the Olson survey matches this distance that is accepted by the county. And then also that the Olson survey matches almost, it's off by a hundredth of a foot. So the Olson survey is very, very close to the east edge of the survey accepted by the county. So I'm going to zoom out. This was supplied by our county engineer, and this is This is the township survey that we have accepted and adopted by the county. So that's just a little bit of extra information. Some of the comments by some of the public are wondering about some of the dimensions that they see on the plat. They see that the edges of the plat are greater than a half mile. And this is why that the dimensions on the edges of the plat are greater than a half mile, because the entire section has a little bit more area and length than what is typical or textbook. And then also I've received a phone call from somebody concerned that solar, utility scale solar could be allowed on this property. As I indicated, the zoning is RUR. You can have a home and agricultural uses on each lot, but that would be a completely different application to allow utility scale solar on this particular parcel. That would be part of a conditional use permit. That would be another public hearing, and that would have to come before this board. And so that is not under consideration at all tonight. It is simply the consideration tonight is to consider dividing this property into two pieces. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Any questions from the board?
None.
This is Brian Walker. I guess just curious how a dispute like this is involved. Is there a second survey or?
So I think Scott Wesley, the property owner, has raised his hand, and he does have some more information. Also, I think that perhaps that the engineer that prepared this, not the surveyor that prepared this plat is here today, but it's my understanding, for instance, if another party believes that those dimensions are wrong, what they could do is have a surveyor do another survey. So that would be one thing. But I am not I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a surveyor. So I'll let the other people answer those questions. Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, give the opportunity for the applicant to make a presentation or comment.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, this is Scott. I guess my address is 1770 Edgerton Road. So we purchased this property last May, right? And we're going to do 3 partners, my buddy and I, and he wasn't in a position. So he wanted to buy in. We said, hey, we'll also give you 16 acres on northeast corner. And this is where this all started. So through the process with Karen and application, we got that survey from Olson. And I think there's a concern from the neighbors of the survey, but it matches the 2005 survey that was given by some other firm. It matches the title commitment by the title company. And we have 0 intentions for solar's out of the question. I'm not building a new fence on the south side. I'm not building a new fence on the west side. If you guys know this property, it used to be a tree farm. There's 2 fences. So inside our property line is a high fence, like 10 foot tall. They'll keep the deer out when they're growing trees. So when we did the tour of the property, the guy's like, hey, your property line's not this fence, it's over there. So good enough, leave it. So we're not even gonna tear down the outer fence. So the goal is keep things as is. The goal for this property to us is 100% recreational, you know, swimming in the pond, volleyball with the kids, stuff like that. I guess that's all I have. There's not much more to it.
Very good. I'd like to open it up for questions from the board.
None.
Hearing none, we'll like to open it up to public comment. Do we have anyone like to make public comment concerning this application?
Hi,
I'd like to do that.
Huh? I've been here too many times, that's for sure. Hi, my name's Jane Kanoki, 23535 West 74th Street, Shawnee, Kansas. I'm a family member with the Kanoki Family LLC, and we own the land right to the west of this quarter section. And I want to say welcome to Scott Wesley. I'm glad to have you as a neighbor. Also, I want to say thank you to Karen, there she is, for taking our phone calls and answering this information. Now, this is quite a surprise to us that there was an original survey done in 2005 that moved the property line. And none of us my parents were not notified at that point in time, nor other neighbors. So this is why we're quite surprised. And we feel that the boundary is a hedgerow fence line. And why is that important? It's one, it's a surprise. And does a survey overrule a legal description that hasn't changed in years? Second, the solar farm lease, we have a bit of a concern there because the farm that borders their property has brush and hedgerow, and that could be used as screening if possible. If Mr. Wesley does indeed own that, he may at some point in time or decide to take it down. The property's turned over quite a few times too in the past few years. My other compatriots can talk to you about that. So we received the notice a week ago on Tuesday, and I was able to get it on Wednesday and look for it in the Olathe Daily News and couldn't really find it. So we're surprised that we're going to lose, I think you have it in our notes, it looks like 16.5 feet on one side, and then it narrows down to about 12 feet on the other side. So that's quite a surprise to folks that have had this property for years and that. And so we would want to ask if we could have a continuance on this plat proposal so we can perhaps get this resolved and figure out if we can get a survey there and see what the impacts are with that. So from the Kanoki standpoint, that's what I think we're looking for here. And we did disapprove this because we did not know anything about a 2005 survey that was not shared when it changed the actual borders with us as landowners. And I'll let my parents talk to you a little bit more about the history, and my neighbors talk to you about their impacts. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next public speaker.
Since there are two of us, do we get 6 minutes?
If it requires 6 minutes, please.
It may. My name is Kimberly Toplikar, and this is my husband, Joseph Toplikar. We own the property at 18020 Edgerton Road, and we obtained a warranty deed for our property when we purchased it. The proposed plat boundary and line adjustment encroaches on our property. The proposed boundary line adjustment takes a portion of our property without compensation, and no one has come to us to offer a settlement. If this plan is approved and they take our property from us, we reserve the right to pursue legal. We preserve the right to pursue the party, legal right to pursue the parties involved for damages. We have attorneys reviewing this matter, and we reserve the right for additional comments, and we agree with the continuance. Extending the property line further south of the existing hedgerow fence impacts us in the following ways. It appears it's going further south 13 to 17 feet. Taking a portion of property decreases our acreage and could also affect our lot quantity in the future. Losing acreage, losing the fence, and losing the potential lots would be a negative financial impact to our family. We purchased this property with the intent of farming, raising livestock, and holding on to it as a long-term financial investment. We recently placed our property into a family trust. Upon our death, our living trust will go to our daughter's special needs trust. So losing a property investment impacts our daughter's quality of life in the future. And we also will lose control of the existing property line and tree fence. KKSW or any future owner of this property will have control over the tree fence line, which means that in the future they could decide to remove it. Removing the existing property tree fence line causes the following. We lose containment of our cattle by losing the tree and fence line that contain our livestock. We lose security of our northern property boundary to protect our family and livestock. And we lose the shade provided to our livestock. We also lose natural beauty and wildlife habitat. There have been 5 other owners of this property in the 25 years we have owned the property. None of them have disputed that the fence was the property line. It is clearly a 100-year-old landmark. The legal description of the property north of us has remained the same as it did before at 149.507 acres, even through several purchases. This is the first time we have received notice that the legal description of the property of us would be changed from 149.50 acres to 151.314 acres. We strictly oppose increasing this property north of us due to a boundary adjustment. The quarter section north of us is currently split into 2 properties. The stump property is 10.493 acres, and the KKS property is 149.507 acres. Add that up, that's 160. And so they are increasing their property from 149.507 to 151.314 by expanding south and west. So we have a copy of our warranty deed, and we have photos of the tree line. And what else? So if you want to see photos of the tree line that we use to contain our cattle, you can. And so we think it would be best, since we are not surveyors and we are not land attorneys, that we be allowed additional time to review this matter further and to better understand this long plat that you're talking about, or long section.
We believe it's a legal matter, and we need to let our lawyers look at it to see what's going on here. Mainly, I think we just need more time to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
What the legal descriptions need to be now, and how that affects everybody. So we would like you to, table it, or what do you want to do until we get more information. We're having our lawyers look at it. So
yeah, we met Mr. Wesley. He's a nice gentleman, and we understand he doesn't have any plans to remove the tree hedgerow at this time, but we have no control over his future or the future of that property. We want to make sure that we maintain our tree hedgerow boundary.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have another public speaker?
Would you like our photos of the tree line?
Do we have soft copies of those, or is there hard copies?
They're hard copies.
Sure, we'd like to see them.
Mr. Chair, this is Sean Penley, planning staff. I'll note too that we'll include these pictures in the record so that they're included for future consideration by the board, so that everyone has. I know some of the board members are on Zoom, but this information will be made part of the public record.
Okay, thank you. Sure. Karen's passing out the pictures though to us for the ones that are online. And Mr. Wesley, if you'd like to go ahead and speak, please go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I think Michael from Olson is in the room, so we'll let him follow up with this, what I'm going to say. But I think the increase, what I've been told, is the increase of acreage is all because of the east boundary and north boundary from right of way versus property line. The west boundary and the south boundary never changed. Any gain in acreage is because the east side, north side from right of way, which is, I think, an Ames report, they said. I don't know what that is, versus Olson Engineering's survey. That's all I had.
Okay. One thing I would like to do is see if there's any other public comments before we hear from the surveyor. Sir?
My name is Robert Kanoki, and my brother-in-law, Lucky Breckeisen, bought this property that we own on the west side of the controversial property 40 or 50 years ago from C.W. Abercrombie. And Abercrombie had used it for pasturing dairy cattle. He had a dairy east of Gardner. And he had a fence. He had a fence along that line, that pretty good fence at that time because he kept cattle in. My brother-in-law farmed that part of that farm, and the fence is still there, but it is in very poor condition. And when the stump property sold, I was at the courthouse steps, and they bought that to make a tree farm. I got to know Ben Atchison, who kind of the manager out there, very good friend of mine. And he said they were going to put up a deer fence 10 foot high to keep the deers out of there, which they did. I suggested they put it right where our fence is, and that would do two things. It would make us a good fence, But he said, no, we're going to put it inside. So they put that fence inside of the other fence. I don't know. It seemed like it was about 15, 20 feet. I'm not sure. But anyway, I feel that our old fence is the property line, and that's where our property should be, because that fence has been in there, I know, at least 40 years, probably more than that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kanoki. Is there another person to make comment?
Hi, I'm Don Idemiller. I live at 21305 Whispering Drive, Lenexa, Kansas. I don't own the property directly adjacent, but I originally purchased that southeast corner quarter section, and in time sold part of that to the Toplickers and developed the rest into what's called Edgerton Estates. I appreciate Karen informing us that is actually more than one section, more than a full section, and I may have more property than I even knew. But I guess my question is really one of logistics. How is a quarter section defined? Is it defined by fence lines? Is it defined by half the length of a section, or what is the definition of a quarter section? Anybody has input to that?
So I think this is where, as a chairman, I think we need to kind of address this overall issue. We don't get involved when it comes to boundaries. What we look at, does the application fit the scope of the subdivisions set forth by the rules and regulations? So if there's a boundary dispute, that is handled outside of this forum. So we simply look at the application, does it fit the rules and regulations as set forth by the county? So unfortunately, these lines, although I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think it needs to be resolved and it needs to be done fairly, that's really outside the scope of this board's action here this evening. So I do hope it gets resolved, because I can appreciate both sides. We got a gentleman who purchased land with the understanding that he was getting X, and we understand the neighbors are stating that the survey encroached on them beyond the original fence and understanding of the original line. So I can certainly appreciate, both sides of this, and I hope it fairly gets resolved. But unfortunately, it's not something we can take up as a board here. So our action before this board is going to be, does the application fit within the rules and regulations when it comes to Johnson County subdivision? So with that being said, I would like to open it up to the board for questions beyond that.
Chairman, Mr. Wesley has his hand raised.
Okay, and I apologize if we miss a member of the public. Oh, we got another member that wants to make public comment. Please step forward, sir.
Richard L. Gall, 38400 West 183rd Street. We live, our northeast corner of our 40 acres is involved in the, I guess, the southwest corner of this property you're talking about. And I just came to my mind, how is this going to affect things in the future? We're going to have a little corner up there that's going to be divided off kind of weird. Does that mean that changes from there south, or, it's kind of weird?
I think that's a very good question. And I think there's going to be a process, which my expectation is going to explain and make sure it's done fairly.
Yeah. Well, I just thought of that. And well, it'd be kind of weird. Our 40 acres with a little notch out of it.
Yes, I can appreciate that thought.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Hudgens, this is Sean Penley, planning staff. We also had the applicant's surveyor was here in attendance, and the applicant had requested if the survey could provide additional information.
Sure. Is there any other members in the audience or online that would like to make any public comment? Okay, great. So, sir, we have the surveyor step into the mic.
Hi, my name is Mike Bogina. I'm with Olson, 7301 West 133rd Street, Suite 200, Overland Park. We retraced the quarter section, which was the description of record for the parcel that we're working with an accepted rectangle removed from it. And we located the pins of that rectangle, and from those pins, we were able to locate this previous survey. We matched into it pretty well. Mathematically, we fit everything pretty good. And we were pretty confident about the boundary solution that we came up with. It's never our intention to cause disharmony or frustration with neighbors by any means. We're just trying to retrace the parcel in question as best we can with the information provided.
Okay.
And as far as things not numerically reflecting what the Johnson County Automated Information Mapping System says, I mean, that's a very good tool to use, but it is not necessarily precise or accurate when it comes to area and dimensions. So the 149.507 that's been bandied about is the mathematical subtraction of a perfect quarter section, 2640 per side, less the accepted area. And that's how that number comes around. And that's why it doesn't match real world dimensions. And I'm open to answering.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yes, John DeGrand, I have a question. Okay, so you went out and you personally surveyed this?
We have field crews, sir.
You had a crew that do it? Okay, the results of the survey, did you put new pins in, or did you just find the pin and flag it, or
the southwest quarter section we did reset?
Southwest quarter section?
Yes, sir. The center of the section, the southwest corner of our survey.
So I guess my next question is, does your survey indicate that the old recognized property line, what the farming community would go, this tree row is the property line? You're saying that the property line goes past those trees?
On the west property line, the hedge line more or less lines up with the section corner that we reset and the section corner we found on the north. There's slight meanderings here and there, but it more or less lines up. It is on the west line. On the south line, the previous survey that we found shows an ancient fence being 3 feet north of the parcel line. And when we hold that reset position of that southwest corner, we come up with more or less 3 feet. So we're retracing the one record we could find in conjunction with the single land survey reference report regarding that section corner that we could not locate. And that mathematically matches the split north, south, and east, west of the entire section.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying that the west line that has been observed for many, many years is correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there's not really a dispute on the Kanoki property?
In our opinion, no.
Okay, it's a matter of, so are you going to say that they also have more land than they think they do?
Yes, sir.
And on the south, the property owners are gaining 3 feet or losing 3 feet?
Neither.
Well, I mean, from the generally accepted, observed over time line.
Again, neither, sir. The description we're working with is the quarter section. So wherever the quarter section falls, whether it's 15 feet north of the fence or 2 feet south of the fence, that's where the parcel is.
Yeah, Terry Atwell here. So this is my opinion, because I've had to deal with a property line that was a tree line that then had a fence put up. It's whatever the survey says. I know we're not here to dispute the survey. That's not what our board is to do. That is a civil issue. But I can tell you from personal experience that a survey dictates where the lines are going to be. It did for us, and the people behind us that thought they had all this extra property because of the tree line, they were actually encroached on ours about 3 feet and our neighbors about 8 feet. So, and that tree line's been there for 90 years. So I think, for one, our board shouldn't be deciphering what is going to be the property lines because that's a civil issue. But, you know, hopefully they can all work together and get the whole section surveyed and staked, and maybe that'll clear it all up for them.
Thank you, Terry. Any other comments, questions from the board?
I've lost track of what I'm approving and not approving.
Okay, so again, that's good. So we've gone down this path of boundary lines, and again, from our scope, we're not here to settle boundary disputes. We're simply looking at the application put forth, and to help bring us back to center. Karen, can you again summarize what it is that we're here to decide tonight, and then your recommendation?
Sure. Karen Miller. So the proposal is to divide the existing property, which is approximately 149 acres, give or take, into 2 parcels. Staff reviewed that request per our zoning regulations and our subdivision regulations, and found that they are in compliance with both of those sets of regulations. So if the zoning board would like to make a motion, there is an example motion on page 10 that would recommend approving the preliminary and the final plat for 2 residential lots to be known as 175th and Edgerton.
So to Brian Walker, to clarify, we are approving a line that goes through the middle of this property, not the boundary lines that are in dispute.
Correct.
That would be correct.
This is what you're approving. You're approving this plat document, which creates this lot and this lot that's based on its relationship to the corner section.
Rebecca Barton. I want to make sure I'm clarifying this. That plat lot does not, we are not dealing with the property lines. What we are actually approving is allowing 2 lots to be made. 1 lot of 16 acres and 1 lot would be approximately 133 acres, correct? That we're not actually looking at property lines. We might look at about where they would be on the property.
You're not looking at the property lines on the ground. You're either you're recommending or not recommending approval of this plat document, which divides the property.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
Yeah, John DeGrant, I don't know if Sean, if you can answer this, or Karen, if we approve this document, are we lending our credence to the dimensions?
No, we are not. We don't get into property lines, John.
Yeah, this is Sean.
I would like staff to answer that question, because I feel like if we approve this, we may be creating a legal description of 2 plots with pins that have been surveyed.
Can I just intersperse that we're not changing the legal description. The legal description was used to create this plat document, and the legal description starts out by calling out the northeast quarter of the section, and then it accepts the stumps rectangle out of it. So that's the legal description that was used to create this plat.
Yes, Jason Cooper. Was this legal? Is this the legal description that was created in 2005 after that survey? Or when did that legal description come into existence?
I have the warranty deed for this particular property, and it was issued in 2021. I don't know. This is not my area. I don't know.
Rebecca Barton, I have one further question. So if we were to approve this and then the property lines were shifted, what would that do to our approval? Would it make it would it negate the approval, or would it just be like, it doesn't matter because it's 16 acres within this property?
This is Sean Pender, the planning staff. I think if for whatever reason, whether by legal action or some other civil matter subsequent to approval of a final plat, any changes were made to a property line, whether it's court ordered or applicant requested, that may require a replat. What the action before the zoning board tonight would be for approval of a preliminary and final plat. And that action is to consider whether or not this plat is in conformance with these regulations, these zoning and subdivision regulations. We are not defining and deciding ultimate property line. If there is a request or a change in the property line, that may need to be considered by a separate entity. What this zoning board is recommending approval of the plat for conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Grand. If you're online, can you mute we're getting a lot of background noise, please.
I guess my point here is I heard somewhere in the text the term boundary line adjustment. Is there a boundary line adjustment being made with this? Because if there is, then I don't think we should do anything until that is settled.
This plat will establish property lines. This, as part of this action that before you, a final plat will decide that. Now, this board may consider all of the evidence here as part of this action again, and the board may approve, deny, or continue the application to allow for further discussion and review. Again, as we noted, planning staff is not an expert on surveying and legal description, but we do know that the applicant's engineers, certified professional land surveyor, they've certified this, signed this as a plat that meets the requirements, and our chief county engineer has reviewed this and determined that this is an appropriate plat.
Okay. Randy Hutchins, just to follow on, I think their overall question, and it was asked before, and I think we need to clarify, if we take action tonight, is that going to in any way inhibit the Kanokis or the other landowners' ability to contest what the latest survey that was done?
This is Sean Penn, planning staff. I do not know if that would have any legal action or ramifications for what is recommended for approval. My guess is no. Whatever is recommended by this board tonight is not a final action anyway. This would have to go on to the Board of County Commissioners for final approval. But again, I don't know what potential legal ramifications there would be by anybody who would contest this. My guess is they would have to, remedy to that would be to seek an action to the civil court, not a zoning board or a Board of County Commissioners.
And so I guess where I'm at is, regardless of what we think and we feel, we don't have the authority to impact that boundary line as a board.
I don't believe so. But again, a plat would be establishing a plat boundary. We'd be establishing that, recommending that to the board, and that final board action would approve it. But I don't know if that would preempt or prevent from anyone from contesting anything in the future.
And so I want to provide some comments here. So when we hear somebody arbitrarily moved a boundary line us being landowners here. It certainly wants to cause your hair on your back of your neck to stand up, because you don't want to learn, you don't want to lose what you thought you had and you worked hard to earn. So I think that's part of our concern here on the board. But at the same time, we're not in a position to where we can make a legal determination. So what we have to do as a board is look at the legalities that are set forth before us. So we have a survey, we have a staff recommendation, we have, to the best of our knowledge, we've got information that we can make a decision from. My biggest concern, I don't want to prohibit the process to continue forward for the landowners, the adjacent landowners, to contest the boundary lines. So I think that was my biggest concern. And again, whether we approve, deny, or continue, it's our action's not going to drive this process. So my thought is address the application before us, whether we want to approve it, continue it, or deny it, and allow the civil process or whatever process that the best process that is outside of this scope continue forward, and make sure that it's done fairly and done right.
Hey,
so
Randy,
yes.
Terry Atwell again. So most of the people that are sitting on our board might recall this, obviously not the new people, but you guys did a preliminary and final plat, a division that was off of Dilley and 143rd Street a couple of years ago. This is the one that I refer to that we had an issue with. So just to let you guys know, you guys divided that up. We, as in my husband and several other people on our street, had issues, property line issues with that property. You guys approved it and divided it up. And then what we had to do, I had to go hire a surveyor, and they went in and found the property stakes. And from those property stakes, or the property pins, then dictated our property line. So the whole tree line that they always said was their property, and the fence was always their property, was on all of ours. Ours was, I would say, easier to maybe prove because we had actual pins. So I don't know if there are pins out there dividing those up, but that was the process that we had to go through. Just so, you know, kind of gives you guys a little perspective of, I've went through this firsthand. I kind of know, you know, what it took to get it done. So I don't want to cause anybody, you know, that has property around there to have an issue. You know, maybe if they all got together and had a survey company come out and just survey it all, you know, they would save money by doing that, and it would prevent issues with their neighbors.
Thank you, Terry. The one question I got is, you know, for clarification, Terry, when we approved it, did it in any way prohibit the process of you ensuring that the boundary lines were established correct or corrected?
No, it didn't. It just cost me money to have to go do it. So.
Okay. All right.
Well, Brian Walker, whether we approve or disapprove, it's not changing these boundaries. This has been surveyed and it is what it is. They're going to have to go through whatever process to figure out where these boundaries are, whether we approve or disapprove.
And that's what I'm coming to the conclusion of. All right. Is there more discussion before?
Chairman, the applicant, Mr. Wesley, is requesting to speak.
Sure. Mr. Wesley?
Oh, now you got me?
Yep.
Okay. So, hey, I really appreciate everybody's input. And for the neighbors, I'm willing to get together this week, next week. Then I'm gone for the 4th. but sit down, figure this out on the property lines. If you need surveyors, I've got access to some. We spent whatever, $15,000 getting this thing surveyed. So we already have our survey, and it's my understanding if they go get surveyed, they'll have more acreage than they think they have, which is a good thing. So more than happy to work with that. I'm an Iowa farm kid. Last thing I want is dispute against neighbors. I've seen it. It's not worth it. So, but my goal tonight was to get that 16 acres approved so I could sell that to my buddy. And that was the purpose of the application. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Wesley. Okay. At this point in time, I'll entertain a motion to approve, deny, or continue this.
I'll make the motion. And then we could just vote how we want. I move that the board approve application number SW22-220-PP/FPMC for a preliminary and final plat for the 2 residential lots to be known as 175th and Edgerton for the reasons and stipulations recommended by staff and set forth in the staff report.
Thank you, Terry. Do I hear a second? Hearing no second, the application fails.
Jason Cooper, I move to continue this for the next meeting. Do a continuance on this.
I think it's too late.
Sean Penley, planning staff, the first motion failed for lack of a second. That doesn't preclude another, the board from entertaining a new motion. There was no vote on there just was no second for the first motion. So you can consider another motion.
Okay. I'll entertain another motion.
Brian Walker's second, a continuance.
Okay. The vote to take place is a continuance of this application. All those in favor state aye.
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 All opposed, same sign?
No.
Okay, we heard 2 no's. Was that, Mary, was that you saying no twice by chance?
Well, I'm a no, so whatever.
Is there anyone else who stated no for the record?
This is Sean Pendley with planning staff. I would request we do a roll call vote, please, for this motion.
Thank you, Sean. Good idea.
Motion was to
continue this application.
And this is Karen Miller. Who seconded that motion?
Brian Walker.
Thank you.
Yes, approve. Sorry.
Carrie Atwell?
No.
Donna Getzman is absent. David Wolf is absent. Randy Hutchins?
Approve.
Aaron Schaefer is absent. Rebecca Barton?
Approve.
Brian Walker?
Approve.
And Jason Cooper?
Approve.
We have 4 yeses. And that's, I got 5 yeses.
5.
So we had
Very good. So we're recommending continuance to next month. Would that be accurate?
That is correct. So that this continuance then will go forward to the next meeting on July 27th. Is that correct? Double check that date. Next meeting would be July 27th in this board hearing room, 6:30 p.m. And I would request, I think it was indicated, a couple of the requests, but for reasons for continuance and what would be asked of the applicant for the next consideration.
This Brian Walker, if this is appropriate, I would ask staff to talk to our lawyer about what we're approving and what this means for setting boundary lines and so forth. I have no desire to get this board into some sort of legal dispute with the property owners. I don't need to be in the middle of that.
Okay, thank you. We could, so staff understands we could certainly provide additional information in consultation with our legal staff. We could also ask the applicant if they have any other information to provide at the next meeting. And then again, this will be a public hearing will remain open. So that would be open for discussion by the public at that next meeting if they have any additional information that they want to provide as well.
Yeah, and I just, Brian Walker, from a personal perspective, the neighbors have suggested they'd all get together and talk. I'd do that in the next couple of weeks.
Chairman, the applicant, Mr. Wesley, is requesting to speak.
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Wesley.
So do I need to redo an application or do I just stay the course and talk to neighbors?
Stay the course and talk to neighbors. We have your application.
Okay, so nothing else for me to do. You have all documentation you need from me?
Correct.
Okay, then I'm good. Thank you.
All right. I wish you guys all the best in working through this and coming up with hopefully a win-win-win or win, however many wins there's got to be. So good luck with that process. All right, let's look at what we have next on our agenda. Okay, other business before the board. Does anyone have any other business for the board? Okay.
No other business for staff. Just to note that the next meeting, as we indicated, will be July 27th at 6:30 p.m. And that meeting will be held in this room as well as a Zoom option or virtual option as well.
Very good. At this point in time, I think we're ready for a motion for adjournment.
John DeGrand, so moved.
Jason Cooper, second.
Jason Cooper, second. All in favor, state aye.
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 All opposed. Motion carries. We're adjourned.
Good night.